What's up, everybody? Welcome into this Wednesday edition of Pushing the Pile. The show is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. Mike Renner, JP Acosta. No Kyle Long today. He's calling a college football game this weekend. What game did he say he's calling?
I think he's calling a Delaware game.
Oh, really getting his feet wet. Calling a Delaware game on a Friday night. And then he has to do the Sunday show too. That's per se. Would you ever want to do something like that? Would you ever want to call like a game like a color commentary?
Absolutely. When I was in college at FAU, I called a lot of games on radio doing commentary for student media. So that's something I've always wanted to do. If I could do color commentary for college football or NFL, I think it'd be the coolest thing ever.
So I did when Jack Collinsworth, when I worked at PFF, and obviously Jack Collinsworth, Chris Collinsworth's son, when he was doing training to get ready to be NBC's Notre Dame announcer, which was short-lived the last year, I called 2 games with him in preparation. He was the play-by-play, I was color. And the one thing that I found out real quick was that if you don't know every single guy's name on that field, if you're not like, if you're not well-versed in those teams, it shows up real quick. It was very humbling. It gives you a good appreciation for how difficult it is. And like when you're sitting at home and you criticize every misstep in your head, you hear them like say something that's wrong and you're like, that's wrong, idiot, dumbass. It gave me a little newfound appreciation for how easy it is to just say something dumb when it's a live broadcast like that.
Yeah, when you're live, a lot of stuff can happen. Everything is flying. Everything, you got to make sure you know everybody. You got to know what the play was. Got to provide insight and commentary on the game that people don't actually have at home. So it's really tough, but the good ones are great at it.
So that's the Western Kentucky Delaware game, CBS Sports Network, Friday, 7 p.m. Eastern. I'll be tuned in. We'll do a cut up of Kyle's worst takes from the game, and we'll just play it on the show next week. Absolutely. But today's show, as always, power tiers. We'll be tiering every team in the NFL. JP is going to do his celebration tiers, is what we got. Big play celebration tiers at the end. We're doing a little Thursday night football preview at the end as well. But we're going to start off in our first off the ball with this. Joe Flacco to the bench. Dillon Gabriel, 3rd rounder, not Shedeur Sanders. Dillon Gabriel, even though Shedeur, we'll get to him in a little bit with some of the Lamar Jackson news. But Dillon Gabriel, your starter, 3rd round pick out of Oregon. Matt Zenitz first on the scene with this, CBS Sports reporter. This one's not surprising. Last week, we talked about it on the show. It felt like Flacco had his Russell Wilson moment, the pick to Kirby Joseph, the arm punt. That was just disastrous. He was not the Joe Flacco from 2 years ago.
Yeah, this was clear. If you saw the Lions game, even if you saw the game they won against the Packers.
Yeah, true.
Joe Flacco was actively working against the offense a lot of times. And it's not just because of the throws that he didn't make. We know he can't make certain throws, but it's about the throws that he left on the field as well. It's about a lot of the passes that are open that he's just not pulling. Those passes downfield that could get explosives for the Browns offense that just aren't working. So you got to go with something new. You got to try something new. But for Dillon Gabriel, this is probably like we talked about with Jackson Dart and the Chargers, but this might be a whole different like level of out of the frying pan into the fire. This might be getting tossed into the volcano like Tekken.
Yeah, dude, it is the Vikings. It's not only the Vikings, not Brian Flores' defense. It's Brian Flores' defense in London at 9:30 in the morning. Like you're out of your comfort zone as much as you could possibly be. Now, if you know anything about Dillon Gabriel and have seen any of his interviews, I don't think there's anything outside of Dillon Gabriel's comfort zone. That guy is comfortable anywhere. He is a unique dude. If you haven't watched some of his interviews, just go listen to him talk. He's very he's got an island vibe to him is what I'll say. But he was my QB3 coming out. I thought this guy at minimum could handle the rigors of the NFL. I thought of all the people, and now he played more football than anyone ever. Like truly, he had the most starts in college football history coming out of college. He had 63 starts. He had more than Bo Nix. So like the guy is experienced. So I'm not surprised that he was, beats out Shedeur Sanders for his backup spot. Like he feels like he can. It's just I'm not sure what the upside is for a 5'10" quarterback with a good with a solid arm, solid athlete. There's really no special traits to him, but if you compare him to what Joe Flacco did, I'm not sure the bar is super high that he has to clear for this team to look at least better than what they did the first few weeks.
At the worst, Dillon Gabriel's probably, or at the best, Dillon Gabriel's probably a spot starter in the NFL. It's probably a guy that you're gonna want as a career backup. He can start games and not look out of his element for the most part. You don't want him to see an extended time, but for the Browns long term, they had to figure out what these rookies look like under center. They got to figure it out soon because they are well on their way to picking at the top of the NFL draft or in that area. So before they can really set their board, they got to know, is this guy worth building around, or are we going to be looking for a quarterback with one of our 2 first-round picks? So this made sense in the short and long term, but yeah, it's gonna be tough. Gabriel is a cool customer, but this is probably the most complex defense he will ever see.
All right, let's get to the Lamar Jackson news, because the hamstring injury that looked minor at the time, you didn't even see like him really wince. You didn't see trainers working on him on the sideline. You didn't see him go to the locker room. It was kind of just, why isn't Lamar out there? Oh, he's just sitting on the bench. Could miss 2 to 3 weeks with this hamstring injury now, which is big because over the next 2 to 3 weeks, they got the Texans, they got the Rams, they got a bye. And then the Bears. So if he's not back by the Bears game, October 26th, that's a big issue. But the next 2 games, they are 1-2. And without Lamar Jackson, they will be big dogs, in my opinion, the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, without Lamar Jackson, I don't see them winning either of these games. And then you get into the bye and into more divisional play at 1-5. You are way behind in the AFC playoff race. This is, I'm not going to say it's a critical level of like anxiety for Ravens fans right now, but it's reaching there real fast. Not only is Lamar Jackson hurt, but Nandi Madubuike is out for the season. Travis Jones still nursing an injury. Broderick Washington is probably out until November. Kyle Van Noy did not play on Sunday. Roquan Smith got hurt. Marlon Humphrey got hurt. Nate Wiggins got to get carted off. Your top 5 highest paid players on the defense outside of Kyle Hamilton are all hurt. And on top of that, Lamar Jackson will not play. So this feels like just sort of a snake bitten year for the Ravens, where like they can't get anything going. But if they're going to miss Lamar Jackson for these 2 games, you're sitting at 1-5. You're sitting at 1-4, I think, in the conference. Mm-hmm. That's a tough hill to climb.
Yeah, every year it feels like there's 3 to 5 teams that just too much, too many injuries to overcome. Obviously, I think when it's your starting quarterback, that's obviously huge. Teams like the Bengals, but just the roster getting decimated the way it is. I feel like the Lions were one of these last year, and it's testament to how good they are that they still were the 1 seed, but like they were not the same team that they could have been with all those injuries. This feels like the Ravens this year, where it's like, dude, you are not the same team anymore. And yeah, they're deep, and yeah, with Lamar Jackson, they're still going to win some games. And truthfully, even if they lose the next 2 weeks, I'd probably still pick them to win the North. It's like they kind of lucked out here this year by the fact that the rest of the North is not great. And now the Steelers, we'll see. They're 3-1. They're obviously atop the division, but they still have a negative point differential at this point in time. They obviously, if you've watched them, like could easily be 1-3, could easily be 0-4. Truthfully, like they've skimmed by in the wins that they do have. So we'll see how the North shakes out. But for a team that had such high hopes, and I even said like, hey, if they don't win it this year, I don't know if they win it. Like this is the year. This feels like everything's kind of aligning, this roster, and I think it's going to be too much of a hill to overcome. I don't think they're going to come close, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think this team can still make the playoffs, but I do think they are not going to be the Super Bowl like caliber team that we thought they were. Not only, again, you're going to be missing Lamar Jackson, you're going to be digging out of a 1-5 hole to make the playoffs. You're probably not going to win the division. That'll probably end up being a wild card team. Outside of that, Madubuike being out for the season makes you incredibly thin up front on defense. And that's something that you notice when you watch their 2 losses against the Lions and the Chiefs. They're just not. They don't have enough dudes up front. They don't have enough big guys in the interior that they can really trust. So everybody's thinning out. You're going to be missing some of your top players on defense. And on top of that, Lamar Jackson is hurt. It feels like a gut check. Even though it's a 2 to 3 week injury, if they leave that by 1-5 and Lamar still isn't playing, it's going to be a really rough uphill battle.
Yeah. The AFC, though, if there's any silver lining, it's like it's the Bills and then who? You know, like what team looks good in the AFC outside? The Chargers did until they lost both their tackles. That might be it. The Colts do, but they're starting Daniel Jones. The Jags kind of do, but it's like, are the Jags really that much on a come up? The rest of the AFC is just so down in the dumps that we'll see. I mean, the Bills really have it. If as like what I said about the Ravens, if it's not this Ravens year, that's how it feels about the Bills right now. The Bills can't roll through the AFC. If they're heading home, come AFC Championship time yet again, whew. That's going to be a tough one for them because the AFC looks like it's cratered, and it looks like probably after the Bills, maybe the 4 best teams in the league are in the NFC at this point.
Yeah, I think so at this point. Unless you are really, really high on the Chiefs turning it around with Rashee Rice coming back, then maybe you could say the Chiefs are there at 5. But that feels a little disingenuous to put the Chiefs at 5 when you've had multiple other teams in the NFC playing really, really well right now.
All right. That's a good tease because coming up after this, we are going to get to our power tiers where we'll find out who's in that Super Bowl favorites tier and who's in that contenders tier. Coming up next.
You can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus. So even if you can't count on accurate expiration dates,
that is a rookie mistake,
or people appreciating your fashion sense,
Jim, the crowd is not on board here.
you can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS, streaming on Paramount Plus.
Glad we wear our good jerseys.
Yeah. JP, the mock draft demo tier is growing. We might have to break it up into like segments of the mock draft demo, but some new additions. Obviously, the old additions, the old teams in this were the Browns, the Dolphins, the Saints, the Titans, the Bengals. Well, we've added the Jets to this mix after their 0-4 start, and we've added the Panthers because as much as we have fond memories of that 30-0 blowout of the Atlanta Falcons, pretty much every other game they've been on the opposite end of it and gotten blown out themselves. I just think this team. Is it time to start looking at quarterbacks for them? Did we start looking at quarterbacks in this draft?
I think you have to. I think it doesn't have to be early unless you're picking like top 5. If you're picking top 5 again, then maybe it's you pick a quarterback early, but maybe you bring somebody in on day 2 of the draft, someone that can at least push Bryce Young a little bit to see if he can elevate his play, or someone that can start in spot scenarios. And then if neither of those guys work out, then you really have to start over. But I still think this Panthers team is devoid of talent at a lot of critical spots. Without Jalen Coker on the field, this team is an off day from Tedero McMillan away from being one of the worst passing units you'll ever see. The offensive line is still built for run blocking and not pass protection. And I think Ekwonu still is not playing, still is not 100%. And we haven't even gotten to the defense yet, which is one of the worst when it comes to personnel that I have seen in the NFL this year. Their linebacker unit is not good. They're still missing some impact players on the defensive line, although Turk Wharton has played well. But you're Turk Wharton, Derek Brown, you need some more pop from your players up front, and they're not getting that at all.
Yeah, the end of the Scott Fitterer era in terms of drafting was a travesty. That 2023 draft, after they took Bryce Young, Jonathan Mingo and DJ Johnson. 2023 was 2 years ago. Neither of those guys are on the team anymore. Your day 2 picks, 39th pick and 80th pick. Can't even make the team 2 years later. Chandler Zavala, the only other guy really playing, and he just got hurt this past weekend and truly wasn't playing that well prior to that. So that was the end of the Scott Fitterer era. And the year before, the Matt Corral pick, the Terrace Marshall pick in the second round, like they had some rough goes of it. I mean, that's how you have, the team that drafts number 1 overall back-to-back seasons. And then Xavier Legette, Jonathan Brooks, Trevin Wallace in 2024, the start of the Dan Morgan era. That's not looking too hot either. Like you don't have the pipeline. Now, I think they figured it out this past year. I think at least T-Mac, Nick Scorton, you're good. You got building blocks at 2 of the most valuable positions in the NFL. But dude, this is still, even just if Bryce is good, this is 3 years away. You're too bereft of talent.
The DJ Johnson pick in hindsight is even worse because they traded up for DJ Johnson.
Did they?
They traded with the Steelers to trade up for DJ Johnson, and the pick that the Steelers used, the Steelers pick that the Panthers gave them after trading up for DJ Johnson, turned out to be Darnell Washington. So it just looks bad in hindsight. It just looks really bad for the Panthers, and I actually think of those guys they picked in that 2023 draft, there are 2 that are still on the team, and that's Zavala and Bryce Young. Everybody else is on a new team at this point. It was an awful draft, but they made a good step in the right direction with this draft. They're continuing to build, but now it should be about finding out which one of your guys are going to be the ones that are going to be Panthers in the future for the long term.
Yeah. It's funny that 2023 draft, at the time I was like, I can't believe what they just, like, DJ Johnson was outside of the top 150, I believe, on the consensus board. I didn't even have him in my top 250. Just like the guy was an athlete, but it takes a little bit more than that to play football still. Couldn't believe they drafted him at 80. Jonathan Mingo, same at 39. It was like a nice, they drafted 5th-year breakout guys back-to-back years. The 5th-year breakout wide receivers, more often than not, there's like a reason that it's a huge thing in the fantasy community. The guys that break out late in their careers, and he didn't even break out like a 1,000-yard season. He broke out like a 900-yard season. More often than not, they struggle. All right, let's get off the Panthers. Let's get to the next tier. I feel a little bad about this, but this is just called the 13 more games of this tier. It's just in this limbo where they're not terrible, but I think from what we've seen early on, we can say that they're just not where we had hoped they'd be. And that you got 13 more games of hoping things turn around, but I'm just not sure they're going to. I just think you're going to be a flawed team that's going to end up in the 7 to 9 win range. And it's kind of just going to be a flush season. And it's the Las Vegas Raiders and the Arizona Cardinals.
It sucks because I was so high on the Cardinals that we are now at week 5, and we're just like, let's just finish the season. Let's just get through with this and see what we can do after. And it also sucks because the Cardinals defense is really good. They have played really well for the most part this season. It's just the offensive issues. I feel like they are more than a 1-year fix, but I don't think the Cardinals did enough this offseason to help ease some of that transition they were going through. You lost Clayton Adams, which has been a big talking point amongst Cardinals fans considering how the Cowboys offensive line looks. But the development you expected from Marvin Harrison Jr. and Michael Wilson hasn't worked out. You still need speed in that offense, and the offensive line just hasn't played as well. On top of that, you're going to be missing James Conner for the rest of the season. It just feels like this team is going to have to win every game via a slog. So I agree with them playing in 13 more games of this. I could also see them being in on a couple other tiers that we're going to get to later. But it's tough for that team, especially because of how promising they look before the season.
Yeah, I do think an underrated storyline from that Sunday night game last week, the 40-40 tie, both OCs are O-line coaches.
That's right.
And I think that's going to kind of be a trend for offensive head coaches. If you're an offensive head coach and you're kind of like, you're the play caller already, go nab a great O-line coach, give them a little more money by calling them an OC. And like, you're seeing the fruits of that. Like Cowboys have one of the youngest offensive lines in the NFL, and their running game is dominant, and they're dealing with backups playing out there because they are so well coached. And you're seeing Arizona on the flip side of that. Running game went in the absolute tank this year. James Conner couldn't get anything going. And what's the big difference? Lost Clayton Adams. So unfortunately, I think both these teams are dealing with offensive line woes that they did not quite expect, I'll say.
Yeah, and the offensive line coach thing is a really cool point because I do think we should give more offensive line coaches more respect when it comes to the power ranking, the hierarchy of coaches in the NFL. Of course, head coach, OCDC, however you want to rank 2 and 3 are going to be very important. But if you have a great offensive line coach, that raises your floor so much because we've talked ad nauseum about the lack of offensive line talent and lack of offensive line development at the NFL level. You offset that by having a great offensive line coach. And the best teams in the NFL, you think about the Bills with Aaron Kromer. You think about Jeff Stoutland with the Eagles, Clayton Adams with the Cowboys, Adam Stenavich with the Packers. The great teams, or at least the great teams at running the football, have great offensive line coaches, and that's what helps separate them from the good teams. The good teams, the best offensive line coaches outside of Bill Callahan, who went with his son, they all have great offensive line coaches. So invest in your offensive line, invest in the big guys, because that's going to help you go from a good team to a great one.
All right, let's get to the next tier here. It's called quarterback development first, record second. All these teams, I think, are in a spot where if they miss the playoffs, they could give a shit if their quarterback looks like a dude. Like the record this year doesn't really matter. I don't think any of them are going to be real players. They're just not quite good enough teams yet. The rosters aren't quite there yet. But if their quarterback looks good, it's a win of a season. It's a good. And I think some of these guys, honestly, a lot of these guys, I'll say the tier. You guys probably know it. Chicago Bears, Minnesota Vikings, New England Patriots, New York Giants, Atlanta Falcons. Of these, I think Bears, Patriots, Falcons, so that's Caleb Williams, that's Drake May, that's Michael Penix Jr. All three feel like pretty certain franchise quarterbacks. I would just be very surprised, given what we've seen already, if they don't turn into that. Good enough. Yeah, there's inconsistency. Yeah, there's downsides. Yeah, there's bad play on tape. But there's more than enough good that it's like that if they can capture that more consistently, you got a guy. And they're all super talented. So like those three, you're good. You just want to see that continue. You want to see improvement from that, because I think all three of those teams can admit they're pretty flawed rosters. I don't think there's any Commanders-like run from last year coming from any of these teams this season. They're fine. And so, yeah, you want to make the playoffs, but truthfully, all these teams want their quarterbacks to look good before any of that. If their quarterback looks bad and they make the playoffs, I think they'd be less happy than their quarterback looking good and not making the playoffs.
So I would actually argue that the Falcons should be a little higher.
Okay.
And
the defensive resurgence this year.
Yeah, I think given the defensive resurgence and the volatility of the offense, which I'm saying as a good thing instead of a bad thing now, the volatility of the offense means you can catch fire at the end of the season and get into the playoffs. With the way that this Falcons offense is so up and down, the downs are going to look bad. You're going to have games like the Panthers one. But with the way that they can be explosive and with all the talent playing the way they are right now, Drake London playing really well, Kyle Pitts' resurgence is actually one of the cooler stories in the NFL, Kyle Pitts being good. Bijan, I believe there's a tweet that Bijan has more rushing yards than like Derrick Henry, Saquon, Alvin Kamara, but also has more receiving yards than Nico Collins and other like high-tier receivers. If they can just catch fire through a one stretch of the season, that could be enough to get them one of those wild card spots in the playoffs, especially because if you look at the other wild card caliber teams in the NFC, you're thinking about The 49ers won't have Nick Bosa for the rest of the year, and Brock Purdy is still dealing with injury. I actually think everybody on that team might be injured. You think about a team like whoever ends up getting second place in the NFC North, they will probably end up getting one of those playoff spots. The Commanders haven't really looked great, and the Falcons already have the tiebreaker over the Commanders. You think about maybe the Cowboys, but the Cowboys have the worst defense in the NFL. So it's not like the Falcons can't make the playoffs. If they can just be a good version of their streaky offense for one stretch of the season, that could lock them into that 6 or 7 seed.
Yeah, I'm not putting that outside of the realm of a possibility, and I hope they do because I bet a lot of Falcons overs this year, thinking that Michael Penix Jr. was going to be the guy we just saw this past week. But I do just think in terms of once you get to the playoffs, like can they beat the Packers with Elijah Wilkinson trying to block Micah Parsons? Like probably not. Trying to block Aiden Hutchinson, like all the guys, pretty much the top teams that they're going to have to roll through come playoff time. I'm not sure I trust that offensive line to be able to hold up. But I do agree that they're probably the one that could turn on the most. The Bears too, but the Bears defense really looks like, I think the offense could turn it on against anybody. They're talented enough to do so. The defense right now just looks like a bottom of the barrel unit until Jalen Johnson comes back. All right, next tier here. One side of the ball stinks tier. And it's two teams that are very good at the other side of the ball. And that's why they were hard to rank in this. But it's the Dallas Cowboys and the Houston Texans. Dallas Cowboys defense is maybe the worst in the NFL. I don't see a lot. I mean, when you give up 40 plus to Russell Wilson, you're a bad defense. And the Texans, their offense isn't the worst in the NFL, obviously, but it's definitely a bottom 10 unit in the NFL. So both these teams just too flawed on one side of the ball to really take seriously as being real threats. But if they make the playoffs, I don't think either of them, I'd be surprised at this point. But the fan base knows it's just like, we're too bad on the respective sides of the ball.
If you merged both teams in the state of Texas, you would probably get a Super Bowl contender.
Oh my God, they would be the favorites, dude.
If you just took the state of Texas and merged them into one team, you could call them whatever you want, but you take the Texans defense and then the Cowboys offense and push them together, it'd be the best team in the NFL. And it's hilarious with the Cowboys because I think I tweeted this. Like I gotta tip my cap to Jerry Jones, who knew exactly what he was doing, because the team is entertaining because they're gonna have to score 40 points a game to actually win any meaningful football games against good opponents. But the Texans, they finally got a win. They finally got one on the board against the Titans, and they'll probably get another one against the Ravens. Granted, everything that we talked about with Lamar Jackson and the Ravens' injuries, I still don't feel very good about this offense. They put up 26 points, but that game was like 6-0 for like 3.5 quarters.
Yes.
So I still want to see them put together a good offensive game, or at least a competent offensive game against a team with a pulse. But yeah, I do think this is a good spot for them, for both teams.
I need George Pickens to re-sign in Dallas. Everyone needs it. And we're actually going to talk about it a little bit when we get to the celebration tier. But like him and CeeDee Lamb, it was kind of slow start. And obviously Pickens has this breakout game. But like that duo, you are going to have a sick offense if you have that duo. And especially this offensive line. Like you get this offensive line healthy with that duo and Dak Prescott, you're going to have prosperity as long as those guys are on the football field. So if trading away Micah Parsons means that we get George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb, it's at least going to be entertaining. We're at least going to be entertained in Dallas. And like you said, maybe Jerry Jones did know what he was doing there, because when you watch the Texans, it ain't as entertaining. They might be a better team, but it ain't as entertaining.
It is not as fun trying to watch. I believe on that play, Jeffrey Simmons had the fastest sack in Next Gen Stats history. Yeah. They were actually running a run play. That's supposed to be a run, and they're supposed to wham Jeffrey Simmons, and just nobody blocked him. Nobody got to him. And so, yes, the Cowboys are more entertaining, although Texans might be the better team, but the Cowboys don't have people sacking their quarterback in 2 seconds.
that it had to be this Texas offensive line. It's only fitting that they give up the fastest sack in Next Gen Stats history. They didn't. No one else would have been quite as poetic as this. All right, let's get to next year. I split up the playoff hopefuls tier from weeks past, and this is the playoff hopefuls meh tier, where it's your playoff hopeful, but you're not thrilled at this point. And it's the Ravens, it's the Chargers, it's the Steelers, the 49ers, the Chiefs, Commanders. I think all these teams all came in, and Chargers didn't come in with massive expectations. Steelers really either. But you're a hopeful, but you don't have, with the team how it's constructed at this point in time at least. Things can change with all these teams for sure. It's a long season. But at this point in time, you're kind of bummed. For the Ravens we talked about, Chargers we talked about with the offensive line injury, Steelers just because, well, you're kind of just an average team. 49ers, all the injuries. Chiefs because, I mean, maybe you bounce back against the Ravens. Maybe you got some hope there, but that was your first win. And then the Commanders because, well, Jaden Daniels is out and the defense still looks like poop.
Yeah, the Commanders' old defense last year got older and got slower, and they really didn't do much to address the old and slow part of the defense. And it was evident against a team like Atlanta, who is a lot faster on offense versus defense wise, because all they did was just isolate Marcus Lattimore and Bobby Wagner in coverage. And if everybody knows how good or how bad the Commanders' defense has been when you use motion against them, because how they motion is they bump guys. You saw it against the Packers where they were trying to figure out what to do defending passes out of motion. Now against the Falcons, they started to bump guys. The problem with bumping guys against motion is now your nickel defender is in the box in the run game, and Bobby Wagner is out in coverage. And now you have a whole new set of problems that you really want to try and solve. So I think I could tell what was wrong with the Commanders defense last week on that like 70-yard Bijan catch and run, where they're just running mesh rail. And Bobby Wagner just can't get through that traffic anymore. It sucks to see for a guy of his caliber who legitimately was a rangy like linebacker, just not be able to cover anymore. But that is one of their biggest issues. Your big stars defensively are old and can't cover anybody.
Watching Bobby Wagner this year, and it's been like the last couple of years, but it reminds me so much of when I'm scouting linebacker prospects in college. And you'll watch, usually they play at like Iowa or like Northwestern, or like a school like that. And you'll watch probably half a game and you'll be like, damn, I kind of like this guy's tape. He takes on blocks well. He knows what he's doing in the running game. He's physical. And then you see one play where he has to like take on a wheel route or has to carry like a crosser deep. And you're just like, shit, the guy's like a 40. You're like, because you could hide it for a while at linebacker, where it's just you're seeing downhill runs, you're just kind of spot dropping in zone. You can hide it for a little bit, but you get that one play where you just have to be an athlete for a second, and you're just like, oh nope, that guy's a day three. That guy's a special teamer. He ain't making it. So unfortunately, it's a Bobby Wagner experience right now. He'll fool you, and he'll look great in the box. He still does. He's still an awesome tackler in those situations. He can still do it against the run, but he's got to go sideline to sideline. It ain't the same Bobby Wagner. It ain't what he tested off the charts coming out. I mean, he was a true freak athlete coming out of, was it Utah State that he came out?
Yeah, it was Utah State.
And he was early in his career. The guy could fly, but the hits take their toll, and that ain't walking through that door anymore. Let's flip it to the playoff hopefuls excited tier. These are the hopefuls where it's like, damn, this could go a little differently. Things could be better. This could be a change from who we've been in the past, sort of hopeful. Jaguars, Colts, Seahawks, Broncos. And I tossed the Broncos in here because Bo Nix actually had a passing day. Now, it came against the Bengals defense. Big caveat there. But he had some throws. That drive before half, that was a big boy drive from Bo Nix. And it wasn't like they were easy throws that he was making. It wasn't just like chalk it up to the Bengals defense. He actually slung the peel a few times on that one in a way that he tried the first 3 weeks. He just missed all of them. So if he's hitting, if you get a jump from Bo Nix, this is a sleeping giant in the AFC.
It's a sleeping giant largely because that Sean Payton's going to dress it up. Sean Payton is going to design that offense really well. I really love what they do running gap scheme. They ran the hell out of power and counter against the Bengals, and J.K. Dobbins running the way he did, R.J. Harvey looking more comfortable. That's going to get you really far, but this defense is truly just a terror. They just terrorize other teams. I actually really enjoyed how Riley Moss played on Monday, especially because they were going at him.
Not a great matchup for him. Obviously, not a great matchup for anyone facing the Bengals receivers, but
he actually fared pretty well. And then Nick Bonito and Jonathan Cooper, I think the funniest play, or the play that biggest symbolizes what this Broncos defense is. Both guys time the snap, and both the Bengals tackles, Orlando Brown Jr. and Marius Mims, don't even touch them. And it's a sack. Like, that is exactly what the Broncos want to be. They can turn that pass rush up, and as long as they have that defense, they're going to go really far.
Yeah. And the other one that I want to touch on here, the Seahawks, because I think I definitely underrated this offense going season. It hasn't been a world beater by any means, but and it's funny because I loved Clint Kubiak last year in New Orleans. I was like, with what Clint Kubiak was given, when they had Derek Carr, I could not believe how well that offense operated. You were obviously not given a Ferrari, but you were probably given kind of like an old beat up truck, but he made that thing run fairly consistently when he didn't have, Spencer Rattler, 5th round rookie at quarterback. So I was surprised with that. I thought him being obviously he's let go because let go of the whole staff, but I thought he was it should have been an in-demand offense coordinator still. And if things would have gone differently for New Orleans last year, could have been a head coaching candidate. So I maybe shouldn't have underrated him as much as I did. I just thought the talent was not there, but Jackson Smith-Njigba is a true number one. I loved him coming out of OSU. I still thought he would kind of be more of a limited guy at the next level, more of like a slot, but he's a guy that on a certain route tree can dominate. And I've even underrated how much he could produce down the football field on his own. I thought DK Metcalf did a lot of the heavy lifting for him last year. I was dead wrong about that. This is a guy that one-on-one against pretty much any corner in the league, he's going to be a mismatch. So that has been, their offense has been, honestly, I think can even get better. It's been good, and I think can even get better the more this offensive line gels, because again, they're still so young on that interior and haven't played great on the interior. But I think as the season wears on, the Seahawks team can develop into even something more than what we've seen from them. And what we've seen so far has been very good.
That's what I think the biggest difference is between the playoff hopefuls excited versus playoff hopefuls meh, is the problems are very fixable. You talked about Seahawks. They just have a young offensive line, and they're doing all this without an offensive line that's playing really well in the run game. They're doing this with a volatile run game. Sam Darnold has been incredible attacking downfield over the middle of the field. It looks like he never even left Minnesota, which I think is a good job, like you said, of Clint Kubiak designing this offense and Jackson Smith-Njigba being incredible as a receiver. But I also think their tight ends have done a lot of really good work in both the run and pass game. AJ Barner having a good year. Elijah Arroyo made some big catches on Thursday. And then you look at the other teams in this tier, you think about the Broncos, like we said, the defense is going to be great. The bright side is the offense can get to that point.
Yes.
You think about a team like the Colts. They went toe-to-toe with the Rams. Probably should have won that game if A.D. Mitchell just doesn't fumble the ball into the end zone. And then the Jaguars, I saw this stat via Daniel Griffiths, who works for 904 Sports, Action News Jacksonville. They lead the NFL in penalties, 50 total flags. They have 7 illegal shift flags, which is the most.
Averaging over 12 a game is wild.
And they're still like a good offense. They're still a fine offense. If they just don't commit penalties, then this team can be very good offensively. So I think all these teams in the hopeful or the excited playoff hopefuls know that their issues are fixable, whereas the teams in the even though I'd say maybe the one team in the Med that maybe can like fix theirs is the Chiefs, but that's largely because they just gotta get Rashee Rice back.
Mm-hmm.
But outside of the Chiefs, every other team in that tier is kind of like, I don't know, because all their issues are gone for the year.
Mm-hmm. They're just, the flaws are going to stay flaws.
Yeah.
So let's get to the contenders, where we have a new addition, a backsliding team from the favorites. The Packers are now only in the contender tier. You can't lose to the Browns and tie the Cowboys in back-to-back weeks and not think you're going to fall off Super Bowl favorites. Maybe it's reactionary. Maybe I've underrated the Cowboys. Obviously, the offense is very good, as we discussed, but you just can't. You can't do that in back-to-back weeks and expect to still be considered a Super Bowl favorite. Bucs are still in this tier. Obviously, that's right now, I don't think they quite are, with the right side of their offensive line decimated, but they will be getting both guys back. So in time, they'll be back to that. But as it stands right now, they're just going to struggle. Until then, Rams are in this tier. Maybe I'm underrating the Rams a little bit, but I don't trust their offensive line. They've been kind of – Matt Stafford's smoothed a lot of holes in pass pro over the course of the first 4 weeks of the season that I've seen. And then the secondary is still the Rams secondary. Those are your three teams in the contenders tier.
I feel like the Bucs are closest to being the Super Bowl favorites, or not the Bucs, but I think the Packers are very close to being Super Bowl favorites. Obviously, they just need to get their offensive line healthy.
Yeah,
The biggest thing, if they can get their offensive line healthy, the biggest thing for them was they couldn't sit on the lead with the run game against the Cowboys. That gave the Cowboys the ability to turn that game into a shootout because they couldn't ball control the game. The Packers couldn't ball control the game. The Bucs, I feel like if they can just tread water with the guys that they have right now, if you can just hold on until you get all your guys back, until you can get Mike Evans back, until you can get Gedeke back, until you can find an answer at a right guard, they should be one of the Super Bowl contenders because, again, it took a half of the Eagles forgetting how to play football, but the game ended pretty close with everybody hurt for Tampa. I guess I still worry about the Packers and the Bucs when it comes to they should win the division, but I don't know. I don't know if the Packers win the division because the Lions are playing really well. The Bucs should win the division, but like I said about the Falcons, if they hit a heater on if they hit a good 3-4 game stretch of good offense, this can completely flip. They did play the Bucs down to the wire in the first game of the season. They probably should have won that game if Younghoe Koo makes his kicks. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the NFC South between the Bucs and the Falcons because I truly think both teams are playoff caliber when they're on.
Yeah, I was very high on the Bucs coming into the season, but the biggest thing we said, we hammered home. We're like, hey, they don't have a second wave of offensive linemen. They just don't. They don't have anyone waiting in the wings. They have the 5 guys, and then that's it. If anyone's coming in to be a backup, they're going to have to scheme around it. And as we've seen, it's going to be tough because Seahawks coming up, 49ers after that, Lions after that, 3 straight weeks without that right side of the line where if they go 0-3 over that stretch because of it, I don't think anyone would really bat an eye. But they could win all those games too. I mean, they were right there with the Eagles. So definitely a team that, when healthy, feels like they could sneak through the NFC. Let's get to the favorites tier. No surprises here. Lions, Eagles, Bills. Just not a lot to poke holes in when you have one total loss in this tier, and it was week 1 to the Green Bay Packers or the Detroit Lions. The Eagles, Bills, your 4-0 teams. These are the cream of the crop.
The beat goes on for both these teams, and it's really impressive. We talked about the Lions on Tuesday's show, but it's impressive how quickly they turned around from week 1, and we're like, all right, new slate, and now they just returned to being the buzzsaw offense we knew they could be. I think the Eagles, and I'm going to try and word this very carefully because I don't want to insinuate that these two teams are the exact same. But the 2025 Chiefs remind me a lot of, or not 20, the 2025 Eagles remind me a lot of the 2024 Chiefs, where they just win within the margins. They are really good at maximizing everything that you give them. They have an amazing defense, and they have an offense that knows what they are good at when it comes to maximizing short yardage situations. They don't fail in the red zone. And if you just never fail in the red zone, every time you make it there, that's going to lead to a lot of wins. So I do think they have issues that they need to solve. They have issues offensively that they are still trying to figure out, and trying to figure out that identity with Kevin Patullo as their offensive coordinator. But as long as you can win within the margins, the Chiefs did it and went to the Super Bowl last year.
Yes. Yeah. The Eagles they're too good. They're too talented to be completely let down by a coordinator. There's only so much you can uncoordinate talent. It's going to figure it out. And obviously they're 4-0 still. The one issue I do have with these teams, the one worry, DJ Reed, hamstring injury, not out for the season, but it could be a while. Cornerback for the Detroit Lions. He was their guy. He was the one guy that you trusted in man coverage. I don't know what that's going to be a big injury, because the kind of waterfall effect of losing him means, like, is Terrion Arnold now your top guy? And then who's coming in after that? Like it's this secondary could be in trouble if he's not out there.
Yeah, it's Dan Campbell said that DJ Reed's gonna be out for a while, but it's not a season ender, which is both never what you want to hear, but also exactly what you want to hear when it comes to the Lions, because every injury last year was season ending.
Yes,
but I think they should be able to get by with Amik Robertson. It is really just Terrion Arnold. It is just, if you cannot live in man coverage with Terrion Arnold, because teams are just going to go at him heavy. And I think that's part of the reason why he has been much maligned for Detroit, because they leave their corners on islands as much as they do. And the former first-round pick is just not cutting it there. So you're hoping for a turnaround in play from him, especially because if DJ Reed is out for an extended period of time, somebody has to step up.
Yeah, you got Jameson Williams brothers even seeing it, calling them. Do you see that? When your teammate's brother is calling you out on his Instagram story, it's not going well. It's not going well. All right, there's your tiers. We're going to take a quick break. After that, we're going to get to JP's big play, Selly tiers coming up next.
You can't count on Derek's tong
Oh,
skills,
Tony, I think it hit the ground.
but you can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus.
JP, what you got?
All right, so like we said, my tier this week is NFL celebrations. These are first downs, these are sacks, these are touchdowns, these are even handshakes that I'll put in there. We're going to start with the S tier, because I think S tier is incredible. The first one we have in here is the Spider-Man by Brian Burns and Kyler Gordon. I have to make sure to get both in there because they both do it. But Brian Burns' sack celebration this past week might be the best sack celebration of the year already. He does the Spider-Man pose. He slings a few webs around. It's incredible. It was awesome. I think that celebration has always been one of my favorites since Brian Burns has sort of taken on like the Spider-Man thing. He's been doing it for years now. But this one, just the pose at the end really sealed it, really lived in the gimmick. So I put that one in S tier.
The common denominator between those two, freak athletes. You can't do some of this. I mean, like you see Kyler Gordon do like the flip, do like the jump spider web thing that he does. Like you can't do that without being, I mean, he had like a 42-inch vertical coming out of Washington. You can't do those things without just being a special athlete.
Yeah, you gotta be a freak athlete to really pull off the Spider-Man thing. And both guys sort of embody the Spider-Man aspect of like defense because of their quickness and because of the instincts. So I think it fits for both guys. My next celebration in here is Cam Bynum celebrating with blue. It's just one of the funniest ones. Cam Bynum's good. You know Cam Bynum was going to be up here. You know that he is always going to have a spot on this list. And what really puts it in the S tier is the fact that Blue joined along immediately. Blue knew exactly what Cam Bynum wanted to do as soon as he walked over. So I think that's incredible. That really is what puts it up there. I have Jamar Chase's gritty. And the reason I have Jamar's gritty instead of Justin Jefferson's gritty in the S tier is because Justin Jefferson does the slow version of the gritty now. And I don't like the slow version, the sort of like the exaggerated one, largely just because like it doesn't look as cool. But Jamar Chase does the gritty and it's awesome. My next one in here is Jalen Waddle doing the Penguin celebration. Even though the Dolphins have largely been inept offensively, I've been hoping for a Jalen Waddle touchdown because Jalen Waddle does the Penguin Waddle dance. And I think it's so fitting for a guy like with the last name Waddle, who just kind of embodies that name and does the dance too. And then my last one is the defensive back seatbelt. That is so cool. It is such a good celebration.
It took over. It completely. There's not a defensive back in America that hasn't done it at some point.
Yeah, you even have defensive linemen doing it after blocking batting down passes. You just got to lock them in the seatbelt. I like that one more than the thumbs down one that you see a lot of DBs do now. I think the seatbelt is one of the elite celebrations in the NFL right now.
I'll say this, Jamar Chase, glad he got one out of the way early on against Jacksonville because that might have been his last of the season.
It really might. He might not have a touchdown later on for the rest of the year. We might not see a gritty.
Sad.
All right. So A tier. First up, I have the Steelers and Deshaun Elliott hitting the Irish jig after an interception on Sunday. It's just whenever you theme your celebration to where you're playing internationally, I think it's going to be cool. I think it's going to be awesome. So I had the Irish jig up there, A tier. George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb's handshake.
What about Travis Kelce doing the bull though in Brazil?
The bull in Brazil is, I honestly think that's kind of a B because you really got to exaggerate the bull. But he really got to go ham on it.
Like Brazil is not known for bullfighting. Did he not know where he was?
Like if they were playing in Madrid, like yeah, that'd be cool. But like
Mexico City too. I mean, they do bullfighting down there. It's like
I think he got his countries mixed up.
Latin America. He just thought he was in Latin America. The same. It's all the same.
So I have CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens handshake in A tier. It is incredible. If you haven't seen it, they did it, I believe, the first week of the season. It is so cool. It's such a cool handshake. They got fined for it. I don't care.
Well, is it because they shoot guns at the end?
It's because they point the gun like kind of like bad boys. Okay. And it's so cool. It's incredible because I think AJ Brown and Devontae Smith have a sort of similar handshake, but they go back to back. And they did it last year. They were back to back, and I think they got fined for that. But CeeDee and George Pickens point past each other like they're a cop duo, and I think it's amazing.
That's what keeps that duo together. We need it.
Yes.
We need to see that for the next 5 years.
The negativity. The next one, I have Justin Jefferson's gritty. We talked about why it wasn't an S tier, but it is iconic for a specific player. It's iconic for Justin Jefferson, and he kind of does a good job at it. And then the last one, I feel like I'm kind of taking it's a kind of easy one. The Lambeau leap is an A tier. It's got to be. It's iconic. It's not. I wouldn't say it's cool, but when you get to Lambeau, you score a touchdown, you gotta do a Lambeau leap. Even if you're playing for the other team, you can try and do a Lambeau leap. It might not work, but you gotta at least try it. So that's why it's an A tier.
Shout out Leroy Butler. I mean, Lambeau leap's great because it's coming. If you score a touchdown in Green Bay and you don't hop up in the stands, like they'll let you hear about it. You will not. The fans will not be happy. So yeah, the Lambeau leap. I respect it. It's not an S tier. It's not super cool, but it's a great tradition.
Yeah, it's a respectable tradition, and we got to shout out the Lambeau Field and the Lambeau fans.
I have a question here though, because we are 2 tiers in. We're S tier, A tier, and I have not seen the Vita Vea new sack dance that he's.
Okay, that's because
the aura farming.
The aura farming is S tier.
Yeah, dude.
The aura farming boat S tier is S tier because Vita Vea joins in late and adds on to them rowing the boat. I think if it was just them rowing the boat, it'd be like a B tier. But then Vita Vea comes in and makes it great. You add Vita Vea to anything, he's going to make it awesome. I forgot to put the aura farming on here, but aura farming is the S tier.
He would flip that boat, one, if that was a real boat. But two, did you see though the sack dance that he's debuted this year?
No,
which I don't know if you can call it a dance. I don't know if I can even talk about it on the show because it looks like I think just go look it up and we can maybe talk about it on tomorrow when we talk about the Bucs, because I don't want to misdescribe it, but I think he's performing a lewd act on the football field. That's all I'm going to say. But keep going.
All right, so my B tier. We're going to start off with the Lions playing Duck Duck Goose. It's a great defensive tradition for a team celebration. Duck Duck Goose, I feel like, has kind of been a little overused, but when you really lock it in as a B tier because the Lions go all in on it. They're running around a circle a couple times, and then they go off the field to celebrate. So Duck Duck Goose is B tier.
Nothing takes a celebration out of it more than when you don't commit. If you're gonna do something like that, you got to commit. You can't have one guy running off the field, one guy kind of half in, half out. That ruins it. You got to commit.
That's why the Vikings team celebrations last year were amazing, because everybody committed to the bit. Everybody has to be in on it. And the Lions everybody was in on it, but I think just Duck Duck Goose is a little bit overused. We have Mike Jackson doing the bird walk. And I think this is so funny because he does it against the Falcons. And everybody does the dirty bird against the Falcons, which is cool. But doing the bird walk is so funny against this team because it is one of the lesser known Soulja Boy songs. And the fact that he did it against the Falcons is amazing. So
this is what I didn't get a video of. I got a video of all the other ones. I couldn't find this one though.
I will send you the video. I found it. You had to go all the way through to the Panthers page and find the interception. But okay, so the next one we have Cam Bynum doing the C Nova dancing on the ground. And I struggled to place this one because he fakes the injury and then falls to the ground and does the dance, which I kind of think takes everybody out of it. When you fake an injury, you really have to commit to the bit and you really have to ham it up. But I don't think Cam Bynum hammed up the fake injury before getting into the dance. But the fact that he's able to basically walk on the ground on his back like that is so funny. And seeing the video of him practicing it the night before, those are always one of the funniest things for Cam Bynum is every celebration that he does, he practices before. And he has a video of him practicing it. So after he does the celebration, he'll post him practicing it. So shout out to Cam Bynum for being the content machine of the NFL. And
the hamstring thing though, the hamstring thing's over. It's over. Yeah. We've done it. Jalen Ramsey doing it this past week and then actually hurting his hamstring. It's like that was the end of it, dude. Like that's how you know it's over is when you actually hurt your hamstring post faking the hamstring.
Yeah, we can't do fake injuries anymore because it just looks too real. You can't scare us like that.
Yeah. We've been hurt.
C tier. Amon-Ra St. Brown doing the clock it celebration. I like it, but he does it so quickly, and they go away from Amon-Ra St. Brown after he does it too quickly because it's a really small you gotta do this, and you don't really get to ham it up that much, but it's very solid, very chronically online, which is amazing for the Lions. Next we have the Lions going bowling, their defensive celebration. I think bowling is a little overused at this point when we talk about team celebrations, but the Lions do it pretty well. I just want to see them get a little more creative with it. Then we have Cole Kmet's home run, and it's cool because Cole Kmet used to play baseball. I think it makes sense. I also think of Calais Campbell when he does the home run swing, so it's fun. But the last one in C tier, which can quickly move up to B tier if he continues to do it, is the Cam Scatterbill backflip. Because he gets into the surfing position, he looks like Crash Bandicoot. And that's always going to be my comparison for Cam Scatterbill is Crash Bandicoot. He looks like Crash Bandicoot when he gets into the surfing position after he scores a touchdown. But being able to pull off the backflip and get it immediately into that is really fun.
Backflip's a tough one to commit to, though, as your signature celebration, especially as a running back, because your legs are sometimes
The wear and
toast
tear.
at the end of those runs. You might be into that end zone. Your legs could be toast. And if you got to commit to a backflip, you might be landing on your knees. You might be doing a quarter flip, because I know from after a dead sprint, you sometimes just don't have the juice to complete one of those.
Well, good thing for Cam Scadaboo is most of his touchdowns will be within 20 yards.
Two yarders.
He's gonna get a whole lot of red zone touchdowns, so he'll have fresh legs. But the D tier, and these are outside of a couple of these are not bad celebrations. I just think they could be executed better. The first one is the Gesicki gritty. I actually think this one is bad. It's not a gritty. It is a skedaddle. It is a hop, skip, and a jump. I don't know what he's doing. I know it kind of became a meme, so he's leaning into the bit. Don't ever do it again. Stop leaning into the bit. Find something different to do, because it is not a good celebration.
I'm not sure there's anything else he can do. At least not a dance that he can do.
That is not a dance.
Yeah.
He's running like the Pink Panther. Like he's running like a Scooby-Doo character. The next one we have is Nick Benito's 6'7" celebration. I'm so tired of this 6'7" trend. I really am.
Low effort.
It really reminds me of, like, I hate to say this because it's gonna age me a little bit, but like the 21, what's 9 + 10, 21 thing. That was like my vocal stem when I was younger. Now they're doing the 6'7" thing, and I'm just like, all right, I get it. Enough. We are well past, like, you can't say anything with 6'7" without somebody going 6'7", and it's annoying. Even Brian Daboll did it to start the season, and I'm like, get him out of here. Get him out of here. He can't keep doing this. My next one is the Lions Stumble Bum celebration. They did, I think, this past week.
Mm-hmm.
I just think they went away from it too quickly. I think the cameras didn't show enough of it. And the fake handoff, like the Ben Johnson fake handoff, again, hilarious considering that it was Ben Johnson, like fake stumbling. But I just wish they kind of lean into the bit more. Like, I want a full offensive line. Get all 11 guys out here. Really set it up and really go all in on this one.
I love that the Bears then did it.
Yeah, I love the Bears really just like, yeah, we do it. It's fine. And then the last one is Jackson Dart's first touchdown dance. It just looks like he's just moving his body. He's feeling himself. There's no rhyme or reason to what he's doing. He's just kind of vibing. Shout out to him, but we got to find you a new celebration.
It's funny, Jackson Dart. Growing up in small town America. So Jackson Dart's from like a small-ish town in Utah. Growing up in small town America, playing basketball, going to small town, there is a Jackson Dart in every city in America. And I think a lot of people know what I'm talking about, where it's like when you're from a town that's an all-white town, there are a few Jackson Darts in this town of each one. And I don't think I need to say any more from anyone who knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's just, we got to find him a different one. He's got to get with Malik Neighbors to try and get a cool celebration, or like even get with Cam Scadaboo. Do like a team celebration. Get an offensive team celebration. That's what I really want for the rest of the season. We need more team unit celebrations. We're missing the group celebrations. I think the NFL has tried to legislate celebrations out of being a thing, but we need to bring those back. I want teams to do like a full 2-minute routine as a team celebration for scoring a touchdown. My coaches used to always say, when you score as a team, you celebrate as a team. You do something good as a team, you win as a team, you celebrate as a team, you dance as a team. So I need more team celebrations.
I will say, I'm going to sound like a huge boomer here, but my all-time Sully, the Jordy Nelson, walks in the end zone, just toss it to the ref.
Okay.
Just toss it to the ref, walk out of there. That's my GOAT celebration right there. Jordy is the king.
I think my all-time one, the Seahawks, and when David Moore was on the Seahawks, they did the new edition, If It Isn't Love dance, and it had full commitment. from Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, I think it was David Moore, and then another Seahawks receiver. They were wearing the neon green uniforms. I think it was a Thursday night football game. David Moore scored a touchdown, and they went full committed to the bit. That's what I need from teams. We need you fully commit to the bit.
All right, I don't remember this one. I'm looking it up as we speak right now. I'm going to take a look at it. But before that, let's get to our great tears there, JP. That was so it was great. Let's get to the Thursday Night Football preview, and let's get out of here. San Francisco 49ers at Los Angeles Rams. Rams 5.5-point favorites at home. 46.5 points is the over-under in this one. How do we see it going?
Oh, man. Have you seen the Niners injury report? Have you seen the Niners injury report?
Yes.
It is
bad.
It is not good at all. It is, honestly, you might not have Brock Purdy. You might not have Ricky Pearsall. You might not have Juwan Jennings. You're already not going to have Nick Bosa. You will not have George Kittle. This is going to be, if you have Christian McCaffrey, he is going to stat pad this game. He is going to catch so many passes. He's going to run ball so much. And then you're just worried about the Niners offensive line against this Rams defensive line in obvious pass situations.
Mm-hmm.
If they can't get anything going on early downs and make these passing situations manageable, I just don't know if the Niners offense has enough juice to keep up. And then without Nick Bosa, their pass rush has kind of fallen off a cliff. So I want to see if the Niners can at least generate some pressure defensively just to try and get after Matt Stafford a little bit, because if he has time, he's going to carve you up.
Yeah, if they don't have Ricky Pearsall, they can't win this game. I was going to say it. I don't think there's any chance they win this game. He's the only guy right now for them that really can threaten down the field. That's it. And he's great at it. And he was great this past week at it. But if they don't have him, they are dead in the water against this Rams team because their offensive line's already overmatched. Like, it's already fully healthy, not a good 1v1 matchup across the board. If you don't have a guy who can win down the football field, you're going to turn into it's just going to be a slog to move the football against this Rams team. That's what they want to do, is to make you just throw underneath every single time. So, yeah, I don't see a lot of reasons other than it just being an NFC West divisional matchup. So we never know what's going to happen, that the 49ers should even be in this game. Truthfully, I like the Rams in this one.
Yeah, I like the Rams here. They haven't updated for Wednesday's practice yet, but if you just go and look at their Monday practice, Michael Williams was limited participant in practice. D. Winters, limited participant in practice. C.J. West didn't practice. Brock Purdy didn't practice. Ricky Pearsall didn't practice. Colton McKivix actually participated. Juwan Jennings didn't practice. Yetur Gross-Matos didn't practice. Renardo Green, limited participant. Robert Beal didn't practice. Who is going to practice? Who is going to play for this Niners team? You just don't know. So I'm going to pick the Rams until you figure out who actually is going to play. If you are in the San Francisco area and you are a 49ers fan, they might need you to suit up.
Yeah. And if you're over 200 pounds, you're playing defensive back for them. All right. I watched the Seahawks, If It Isn't Love. The best part about it, not the dance, it's Russell Wilson running in. Not like, no one told him about this. No one told him about this. And he's just like, he just starts jumping up in the air, like jumping up and down. He wants to be involved. It's Russell Wilson. I almost feel a little bad for him in the moment, given what we know now, but like, it is about the most quintessential Russell Wilson thing. And it's a great choreographed dance.
He just wants to be a good friend. He's hyping up his friends out there.
All right. We are going to get to the full weekend preview tomorrow. Thanks so much for tuning in today, though. Until next time, keep pushing.